Well, Robotnik seems to be taking his many defeats a bit poorly. He has now lowered himself to hurling rotten fruit at pictures of Sonic which are attached to the wall, while he rambles on about how he's going to defeat him any day now. While he's doing this, Grimer enters the room and says that his luck is about to change, as their latest project is almost complete. Something called Project Brutus, which has been in the works for quite some time now and only needs one more thing before it can be made operational. They both head down to a room which strangely enough seems to be made of stone rather than metal, which lines the rest of the citadel. Inside sits the huge imposing form of a new type of trooper. Now that the body is built, all it needs is the brain patterns of Robotnik before it can be brought to life. A helmet is attached to the trooper and another to Robotnik, and with the flip of a switch, the transfer begins. An electric surge seems to fill the room, travelling between Robotnik and the trooper until Brutus finally comes to life. A machine with the strong body of a trooper, along with the brains of Robotnik. It may prove to be the most dangerous thing yet for Sonic and the rest of Mobius. Elsewhere, in a place called the Pleasant Zone, a travelling circus comes rolling into town. The same circus which Sonic and his crew are using to disguise themselves to keep hidden from Robotnik's patrols. Everything in the area seems fine, there's no signs of trouble at all, and since everything's safe enough, Sonic decides he can remove the disguise and run around freely for a while. He tells Johnny to park the caravan somewhere safe, then goes off to stretch his legs and greet the locals who seem quite pleased to see him, or at least most of them are. It seems that there's a spy hidden among the crowd, and as soon as he sees Sonic in the area, he reports it directly to Citadel Robotnik. The call is received by a robot receptionist, who is going to send the report to Robotnik, but he's quickly stopped by Brutus, who overheard the conversation. He decides to take matters into his own hands, and test his might by going after Sonic himself. It didn't take long for a trooper ship to arrive in the Pleasant Zone, causing mass panic among the citizens who immediately begin running for their lives. A voice calls out from the ship, telling everyone to turn over Sonic or face the consequences. Rather than put the citizens in danger, Sonic turns himself in. He confronts the trooper ship directly, and the vehicle opens up to reveal Brutus, backed by a small army of troopers. Brutus, true to his name, doesn't hesitate to launch a brutal attack against the freedom fighters, sending his troopers straight into battle. The troopers are as useless as ever in the fight, but this time their larger numbers are giving the freedom fighters a hard time. It's a tough fight, but all they can do is hold out as long as they can. Sonic, as usual, uses his super speed to his advantage, while Amy fires away with her crossbow, and Johnny smashes the troopers apart with his staff. As for Tails and Porker, well, they're off elsewhere at the minute having another adventure. Sonic decides to turn his attention to destroying Brutus as he charges towards the robot, who tells him to give it his best shot. Unfortunately, Brutus simply swats Sonic away with ease, with nothing more than a swing of his hand. Sonic realises that Brutus is definitely more powerful than the regular troopers, and Brutus brags about how he's unbeatable. Sonic begins to reply when he's cut off by Brutus, saying that he won't get the chance to try anything else. And, with that, he orders the troopers, which have them pinned down, to open fire. As the troopers pull their triggers, Sonic grabs both Amy and Johnny and runs away, pulling them along with him. The troopers continue to fire, but they can't keep up with Sonic's speed, though Sonic knows he can't keep this up forever, so he runs out of sight and finds a hiding place behind one of the nearby houses, so they can try to come up with a plan. First they try to figure out exactly what Brutus is. Since he sounds and acts like Robotnik, they think it could actually be him at first. But they know he could never fit into a suit of armour that skinny. So they move on to their next theory, that Brutus has been programmed to think and act just like Robotnik, and that makes them realise just how dangerous this new enemy is. The troopers have lost track of Sonic, but Brutus has a few tricks up his sleeve. In order to find out where Sonic ran off to, he activates his infrared sensors, and quickly picks up the heat left from Sonic's footprints. Now the hunt is on. Brutus and his men follow the trail, and it's only a matter of time before they find their target. Back at Citadel Robotnik, the evil dictator has finally come up with his own plans for Brutus. However, he is told that Brutus is already on a mission of his own. The receptionist from earlier explains that they had a tip-off about Sonic's location, and that Brutus immediately went after him. Robotnik is annoyed when he learns this. All reports are supposed to go through himself first so that he can come up with a plan of attack. So he has to try and get in touch with Brutus as soon as possible to try and find out what's going on. Sonic and the others are still in hiding, but they can now see that Brutus is moving steadily closer. Even though they still don't have any real plan, the only thing they can think of currently is to fight back with every ounce of strength that they can muster. Sonic manages to take out a few of the troopers and once again turns his attention to Brutus. He knows how tough the new enemy is, so rather than spin attack as usual, he spins around Brutus at high speed, making him hard to grab. He then takes hold of Brutus's loose cape, wraps it around the robot, and pulls as hard as he can, turning Brutus into some type of spinning top, which slams straight into one of the nearby houses. The house crumbles and falls all around Brutus, burying him, and hopefully the collapse caused some damage or maybe even took him out. But no such luck, however, as the fallen bubble begins to shift, and then Brutus bursts back out of it, unharmed but more angry than ever. As he's about to launch another attack on Sonic, Brutus receives a transmission from Robotnik ordering him to respond. Brutus doesn't reply and orders his troopers to forget they ever heard the message. He then turns his attention back to Sonic and the others. While everyone is distracted by Brutus, some of the troopers sneak up behind the freedom fighters, and one of them manages to grab Amy, taking her hostage. Brutus begins to speak again, but Robotnik tries to communicate again, this time on a frequency which seems to rattle Brutus's skull. Unable to take it anymore, Brutus responds. He is ordered to explain where he is, what he's doing, and why he wasn't responding. He explains the lack of communication by using the excuse that a house fell on him, causing some disruption. But he reveals that he went out to destroy Sonic himself, has managed to capture him, and is about to have him and his team executed. Robotnik has other plans though. Rather than letting Brutus kill them, he orders Sonic to be taken alive and brought to him at Citadel Robotnik. Brutus agrees and orders his troopers to put Sonic and the others in chains, then leads them to the transport ship. The troopers comply, and soon enough the freedom fighters are bound in chains and are ready to be taken out. Before the freedom fighters are sent away, Brutus parades them all through the zone so that everyone can see that their hero has failed, to destroy their morale by letting them know that all hope is lost. The citizens pretty much give up right there. If someone with Sonic's speed and talents couldn't stop Brutus, then what hope does anyone else have? Even as he's being led away, Sonic tries to give a few words of encouragement. He lets the crowd know that he's not down for the count just yet, that he'll find some way out of this situation as he always does. Brutus tries to punish Sonic for speaking out, but just as he's going to hit him, Robotnik calls once again, wondering what's going on, since it's been quite some time since he gave the order to transport the freedom fighters to the Citadel. Brutus reveals his plan to destroy the people's morale by parading the prisoners through the streets, and Robotnik isn't pleased. He orders Brutus to bring the prisoners to him, and he expects that order to be carried out right away, and as such he gives the order one more time. One of the troopers tells Brutus that he should obey the order, that Robotnik can get particularly bad if he gets upset. But since Brutus shares Robotnik's brain patterns, he gets just as violent too. As the trooper finds out when Brutus hits him with enough force to send him falling to his knees. When the trooper falls, he loses his grip on his blaster, which falls to the floor nearby. Sonic and the gang notice this and quickly move in to grab the weapon for themselves. Amy picks it up and without a second thought fires it at Brutus. It doesn't cause much damage, but it does provide enough of a distraction for Sonic and the others to escape. When everyone is far enough away from the troopers, they try to find some way to get free from their chains. Amy suggests shooting the Lynx with the blaster. She carefully takes aim, but just before she can pull the trigger, a different blast shoots the ground right next to them. It seems the troopers caught up quicker than expected. All the heroes can do now is run, though thanks to the chains, they can't use Sonic's super speed. They head straight for a nearby bridge and try to escape to the other side. Even if they get there, Amy and Johnny know that the troopers will still manage to catch up to them. But just as they reach the other side, the troopers blast the bridge and cause it to come tumbling down, cutting off any way for the troopers to quickly get across. It seems that this was all part of Sonic's plan. He claims that he knew the troopers would end up shooting the bridge since they're all such bad shots. But Brutus has another surprise for them. After all, he is no ordinary trooper. He has technology far more advanced than the regular models, and the brains to know how to use it. He has been fitted with an anti-gravity device, and begins using it to float above the ground and makes his way over to the heroes. Everyone tries to run, but with their feet still bound, they can't get very far very fast. They stumble and fall into a heap, while the enemy moves in closer, though this time he says he's going to ignore Robotnik's commands. Instead of taking them prisoner, he's going to kill them right here, right now. The stress of the situation causes a familiar reaction in Sonic. When he's in life-threatening danger, or if he absorbs too much chaos energy, he transforms into something much more powerful. His eyes become strange swirls, while his body changes colour from blue to yellow. What's more is that he loses any sense of control which he may have had. He transforms into Super Sonic, an insane, violent, far more powerful version of himself. The first thing Super Sonic does is free himself from his bindings, breaking the chains before flying up to fight Brutus head on. He has only one thing on his mind: the destruction of everything. Friend and foe alike are his targets now, and there's little that anyone can do to stop him. The final showdown begins. Super Sonic launches straight into a powerful attack, slamming straight into the front of Brutus, this time with enough force to actually cause some real damage to his armoured body. Brutus knows that he may be outmatched, so he changes his tactics. He runs over towards Amy and takes her hostage, thinking that Super Sonic wouldn't dare to attack while his friend's life is in danger. But he doesn't know how ruthless Super Sonic can be. When he's like this, he has no friends, only targets which must be destroyed. Brutus starts to panic as Super Sonic launches into another attack, and doesn't seem to be holding back. He hits Brutus again, and only by luck did he miss hitting Amy, who falls from the robot's grip. The attacks don't stop. Super keeps on pounding away at Brutus again and again, destroying one of his arms. Brutus tries running away, leading Super towards the rest of the troopers, who begin firing at the yellow blur. The troopers are horrible shots normally, but with Super Sonic's faster speed, they don't stand a chance of hitting him. Instead, Super attacks the troopers head on, utterly destroying them all one by one with ease. Brutus retreats back to his ship and prepares something called a foam cannon. It doesn't sound like the most effective weapon, but when Super gets close enough, he blasts the hedgehog with a strange foam-like chemical, which hardens instantly around him, solid as a rock. Any normal person would be unable to move if they survived being smothered by this stuff, but of course, Super is no ordinary person. He proves to be far too strong for the chemical and manages to break out within seconds as the troopers try to retrieve him. At this point, Brutus knows when he's beat. His only option is to retreat and come up with a new plan in the future. He runs back to his ship, fires up the engines, and flies away as fast as the engines can manage. The energy coursing through Super Sonic finally drains away before he can turn his attention to a new target. His mind returns and his body transforms back to its normal state, leaving him dazed and confused about what just happened. With the threat gone, Sonic rejoins his friends to make sure they're doing okay. They're safe, but they all know that Brutus will return again at some point in the future. It's only a matter of time. Back at Citadel Robotnik, Robotnik is frantically pacing back and forth for the return of Brutus. He eventually enters the room and apologises for being late, but he had to repair his damaged armour after his defeat. Of course, Robotnik is furious about the failure, and that Brutus ignored his order to bring Sonic to him immediately. Brutus responds by saying that his mind is copied from him, and that parading Sonic's capture through the streets is exactly what the original Robotnik would do in that situation. Robotnik tells Brutus to know his place, to remember that he's just a machine, a tool to be used whenever he sees fit. As Brutus takes his leave, he thinks to himself that he inherited everything he is from Robotnik. His personality, his ambition to conquer the world, and promises that one day, the entire world will bow down before him.